So yeah, my name is Charles. Very good morning. Welcome to Paris to everyone. I'm the CEO of the dYdX Foundation, and in the next 10 minutes, I will try to give you an update on what are we busy with, migrating from the version 3 of dYdX to the version 4. A little bit of safe harbor before. So everything here discussed is essentially a snapshot of the ecosystem, not an investment advice or anything like this. So with this behind us, we can kind of go into what I will be covering today, a snapshot on the ecosystem, the V4 in details, as well as a closer look at the DAOs, which are growing fast in our ecosystem, and also how you can participate into the dYdX revolution. I'll start with very quickly some kind of history of the internet, just for us to kind of remember we are building on the internet, and this started some actually years ago, right? So there is this timeline of the first computer in 1969. An history of the internet, just trying to put a timeline and remembering the first internet was launched in the 70s. Then Bitcoin came on, Ethereum, Cosmos now, but the timeline is keep expanding. So you can just try to do the exercise yourself and thinking how will you position like the birth of Facebook, Mongox, or Uniswap, or FTX, and just kind of realize we are actually extremely early stage. I really think that in this world of crypto and the evolution of the internet, essentially our societies are moving from a bureaucratic age where there is kind of central organizations which are taking decisions for us, and we kind of organize ourselves around central groups. And it's really there is really this trend in the society today where essentially algorithms are driving more and more our life. This morning you woke up, you look at your social media, you look at your phone, and essentially algorithms are managing that for you. If you go on the market, you're probably trading against bots. So we really need to think and get the right skill set and the tools around us to essentially get everything we need. In this world of crypto, it comes with responsibilities. I think as an industry, the DeFi industry, we need to stay engaged with the regulators, making sure that we don't only claim DeFi is great, but also make the time to demonstrate that actually the agenda of regulators and what DeFi delivers are essentially, for the most part, very much aligned. And if you think about this, all this kind of drama we see with regulators in different parts of the world can essentially be mitigated if we really spend the time to stay engaged with regulators, not being afraid of having those conversations, but also spending time to really demonstrate. So when you want to have like healthy markets without too much manipulations, for example, DeFi is a very strong solution for this kind of challenge for regulators. And the list of benefits of DeFi are in our mind, but we need to consider and always keep working on making sure that these benefits are clear to the regulators. Regulators are progressing well in crypto. Most of them are open to discuss DeFi. Most of them are working on CBDCs. So it's a very strong approval, I would say, and kind of blessing on the technology we are building. So we should not be afraid of regulators, but really being engaged to make sure that our industry keeps thriving, and making sure that we explain as well and keep explaining again and again, even though it might be clear to our mind here in this room, that there is two different types of engagements and people in the industry. There is money crypto, there is tech crypto. Some regulators, some of our counterparts get it now. Some others are still in their learning journey. So it's a shared responsibility we have to keep explaining clearly and in simple words this big difference, so people don't get like a single bucket for anyone involved in the industry. We are definitely progressing, but that's something we should keep focusing on. One thing also we should all think about is how we can also kind of revamp our industry jargon. We are all in crypto in this room. We are dealing with early users which are familiar with the words we use. But if you think of some of the jargon we use in our products, in the user interface or documentation, non-custodial wallet, what does it mean? Is it a wallet where the money cannot stay? For new users, it's very, very complicated to get your head around that. So thinking how you can use better words and new words so that you can essentially onboard more people. Permissionless. If I mention permissionless to my wife, for example, she's great, but she's not in crypto. She will be thinking, oh my God, this is maybe the far west, and there is no rules, there is no nothing, and actually there is rules in crypto, and they are actually encoded, so it's a safe place, but the word we use is not exactly easy to capture. Immutable, government-free, trustless. I think trustless is probably one of the most kind of complicated word to communicate to people. Is it something we cannot trust? That's probably the first thoughts coming to mind to users when they enter our space. And I think also we can think maybe one additional one someone was telling me yesterday. When we ask our users to connect with their wallet, it's very strange for people. Just imagine this morning we shake hands and we open our wallets to everyone we meet this morning. That will be really, really weird. It's not weird to us, but I think this is something we can definitely keep working on. Building products with the user intention at the center of it. That's really kind of a ping a little bit to some of the CeFi products where we've seen product roadmaps which are essentially focusing on the business kind of mission rather than the user intention. And that's a simple concept, but that's something which really helps to get products which are longer lasting and essentially growing more for the long term. Improving the user experience with custody and UX, and as well as delivering decentralized autonomous organizations which are functional and scalable. It's still a very early days in our space. DAOs are definitely making a lot of progress, but that's something also we should all participate in and making sure that they become scalable, functional, and really public good. Moving on to dYdX itself. A short history of dYdX. dYdX was launched in 2017 by Antonio Giuliano. At the time, he was a former Coinbase engineer. It was first launched on Ethereum layer 1. Later down the road, dYdX was one of the first apps to migrate to the very early layer 2, moving to StarkX. Last year, in 2022, dYdX reported 466 billion of trading volume on dYdX, so it's definitely an application which has found his audience and keep growing. And the next big step for dYdX is obviously the dYdX chain, and we'll touch on this. dYdX chain is built on the Cosmos SDK, and it's a customizable chain. A little bit of timeline regarding the dYdX chain. So it's basically cut by the engineering teams involved with the development of this new version in 5 major milestones, with a developer testnet, a private testnet, and we entered a few weeks ago now in the public testnet steps. So it's really kind of progressing very well, and the last step is a milestone number 5, which will be the launch of the dYdX chain, as well as a transition between the current version to the new version, following a series of votes and discussion with the community. So number of active traders, community volumes, we touch on this, as well as the fee generating by the protocol for your information. The public testnet started a few weeks ago. As I mentioned, block time about 1.85 seconds. It's a testnet, so we try to kind of stress and define different scenarios within the testnet. We are very excited to host more than close to 50 validators in the public testnet so far. And you can see some of the names. I kind of highlight some of the big names, but also some of the French champions, which we are really grateful for them to join the project. So you recognize, I would say, the OGs from Cosmos Stations, Node Guardians, which is a French team, Stake Lab as well, Informal Systems, very close, obviously, to the Cosmos ecosystem, but Galaxy Digital, Chorus One, Meria, as well as Google Cloud. But all of this is public information. You can see that in the testnet in the dashboard from the testnet. Currently, there is only 2 trading pairs in this testnet. I would say the major ones, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So why are we building dYdX v4? Essentially, is to keep progressing in terms of decentralization. So we are definitely a DeFi project, but a DeFi project which has been essentially leveraging every bits and pieces of technology, which has been allowing us to really deliver a true DeFi experience. And with the progress of technology, we can essentially kind of making sure that there is just every component being decentralized. One big advancement for the dYdX version 4 is essentially the decentralization of the order book. We will come back to this a little bit later. We want also with the dYdX v4 as a community to enable decentralized governance. So there is several DAOs which are being built. Version 4 will be also providing higher throughput, faster finality, as well as new trading products in general, thinking of potentially additions of spot margins or other synthetic products when the time comes and when the platform stabilizes and when contributors in general decide to kind of suggest to the community and make votes with the different DAOs and token holders on how should be the directions of the protocol itself. So some platform statistics, weekly active users for 2023, close to 5,000. Daily volume average about $1 billion daily. Total volume so far $200 billion. Some fees have been collected, about 47 million. And number of active users so far up 100K. So the most active trading pairs are obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum, but there is today more than 20 plus trading pairs available on dYdX. And the community will get the opportunity to essentially discuss, design risk management profile for potentially additional trading pairs. I will not go into too much details here, but the architecture of the new version 4 essentially comes with three main components, which are essentially the chain itself. So that's really I would say the foundation of the project. There is an indexer also, which will be essentially mashing the data from the chain and the order books and make them consumable in a Web 2 kind of manner via some API. So traders, researchers, people managing dashboard will be able to look at data and consume it in a much more simpler way, as well as front ends. All the stack from dYdX version 4 will be totally open source, from the front end to the trading engine, the chain. So all of this will be made available for the community to look at, study, and build upon. The life cycle of an order on dYdX. So essentially, the user express an opinion, express a trade via either a front end or an API. Then this order is routed to validators. The thing you really want to capture is, in the context of dYdX chain, validators have two jobs. They need to essentially verify blocks and mint new blocks. That's very, I would say, a classic kind of task for validators. But the second task of validators in the context of the dYdX chain is to essentially host the order book and update the order book. So the order book on dYdX version 4 will not be hosted off-chain. It will not be on-chain neither. It's decentralized through a solution design where the order book sits. The order book sits within the memory of the validators. So it allows us to keep a very high velocity order book, which does not kind of slow down because of the block time. Even though the block time, as I mentioned earlier, is 1 to 2 seconds, it will not provide a good trading experience enough if the order book will be on the chain. So after a validator essentially match a buy and sell order, it will essentially come back to the chain itself and seek consensus. And at the time of consensus, then the full settlement of the trade will be done. So it's a very interesting architecture, allowing to keep a very fast-paced type of trading environment by choosing to essentially decentralize the order book by having it sitting on the memory of validators. So one of the takeaways from the history of dYdX so far, it's essentially an application which used to sit on others' blockchain, should it be Ethereum or layer 2s, and this application is becoming a protocol. So this is the AppChain narrative, where the full stack is essentially kind of managed by the protocol itself and the teams involved with the project, and that's a trend which I believe will keep moving, either in layer 3 or maybe in sovereign chains leveraging the Cosmos SDK or some other technologies. Within the ecosystem of dYdX, we have several DAOs which are already live and thriving. There is conversations within the community to essentially expand this number of DAOs. So having DAOs, sub-DAOs, and DAOs which are essentially really specialized in very different kind of group of tasks and duties for the ecosystem. So we already have the grants DAO, which is live for close to 2 years now. They deployed $3 million plus US dollar to 100 plus projects. The operations DAO has been launched also earlier this year by the community. There was a fundraising for these grants, for this operations DAO, which happened very successfully with more than $6 million US dollar of funds for the DAO. So the DAO is starting to hire full-time staff and essentially preparing for contributing to the version 4 of dYdX. If you want to know more about the dYdX ecosystem, take a picture of this slide. There is a QR code here, and you can get like a full picture of the technical progress, the ecosystem overall, who are the market maker involved, the delegates, the kind of contributors to the ecosystem overall. That's a good way for you to get a feel of how much we are progressing. The team of the foundation is publishing twice a year a report about the ecosystem, so keep an eye on this. It's really a good way to get a full snapshot. So some takeaways from this short talk. DeFi applications is becoming a protocol. This is essentially the history of dYdX, which is unfolding before our eyes. We are migrating to our own chain built on the Cosmos SDK. As a community via the DAOs and the decentralized governance is really driving this effort. Many different ways of kind of building this ecosystem further is essentially through expanding the number of DAOs to support the needs of the protocol in general. I'm missing an emoji here, but Paris love blockchain. I think this is obvious this week. And the way you can join us, you can join by participating in the governance. You can join as being a technical contributor to various things around the project. So there is many ways you can engage. The best way is probably to start with Twitter. We have also a forum which is very active, dYdX.forum, and you will find different streams of conversations. Should it be technical, about trading, or about the governance as well. So yes, thank you very much. Happy to take questions if you have any.
So what are the main reasons to move from a layer 2 to an AppChain? Not really on Cosmos, but just an AppChain. Absolutely.
So as I mentioned, we really have this commitment to decentralizing dYdX as much as the technology allows. The decision was made some months ago to essentially being able to redefine the stack for dYdX and not sitting anymore on general purpose blockchains such as Ethereum layer 1 or layer 2s. And one possibly point of frictions was that the application of dYdX was growing extremely fast, but there was always a dependency on the progress of the underlying blockchain. So when you work on layer 2s or when you work on some other stacks, you always have this dependency on how fast the underlying blockchain is progressing on their roadmap, and it sometimes kind of slow down the progress of your own app because the underlying chain is focusing on different things or is just taking more time to deliver. So being able to design and kind of control the full stack allows you to progress at the pace of your applications. Then we are growing very quickly. The other aspect is by building your own chain, you can optimize also the chain for your specific use case. So I come back to my earlier point. A lot of general purpose blockchains available, which can do NFTs, can do DeFi, can do all kind of smart contracts. But for our use case, we are very focused since 2017 on a single use case, and having a blockchain which is kind of optimized for our use case allows us to essentially improve the performance in general and the user experience by an order of magnitude. Decentralizing also via the dYdX chains allows us to progress into decentralization of the protocol itself. So on layer 2s, you still have some kind of point of centralization. Think of sequencers, for example. The order book is not always easy to kind of move to a layer 2. You have gas fees issues also on layer 2 nowadays. They used to be very quiet and very cheap to operate on. They are not quiet anymore. So the kind of solutions you want to find, we're not available with whatever layer 2 around. So it's really about an engineering decision, and I would say a mission to decentralize, which kind of pushed the engineers involved to say, okay, let's get this Cosmos SDK deployed, optimized for our own use case, and it essentially ticks a lot of boxes. Thanks a lot, everyone.